Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to you out there. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co host, Trey Holiday, and you guys know I do this with Big O, my co hostess with the mostest. Bring on Big O. Good
Good,
morning.
good morning, Trey Holiday. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm all right. It's good to be back inside today. We were out there at Cal Anderson Park yesterday morning, back in the studio today. Lots of developments around this sweep, court action, some everything else. And actually, today we'll be joined here shortly by Kevin Schofield at SEC Insight. We'll talk about the case that went to federal court yesterday in front of Judge Jones and literally awaiting the judge's ruling as we speak. Judge Jones said that he was going to rule this morning. We're also joined by Besa. It's Thursday, so another installment of the Rewind with Besa. And, of course, producer Nikki Barron with the coronavirus update.
Absolutely. Let's get into it, O.
All right, let's get into it. In that case, if you could bring on Kevin Schofield.
Morning.
Good morning, Kevin. And
to my favorite people in the entire world, it's wonderful to see you. Thanks for having me on.
And this is a perfect opportunity to make a shameless plug. You see Kevin Schofield there has on a Converge sweatshirt. You can go to whereweconverge.com/shop. That's a great way to support us. Or, if we can get this other camera over here. I'm set up for this stuff now. We got to be able to tell people about it.
Look, he's got coffee mugs.
I think this would be a good addition for you. You can also get the Converge coffee mug. People love coffee here in the city. So those available whereweconverge.com/shop. Great way to support our work here. Kevin Schofield, we got a lot to talk about today. But first of all, right now everything is in limbo because this case went to court yesterday, was heard in federal court in front of Judge Jones. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so yesterday morning, early, as probably a lot of folks know, the one of the residents in Cal Anderson Park, one of the homeless residents there, filed a lawsuit to get an emergency injunction to stop the Parks Department from coming in and doing their cleanup and removing the encampments that are there. And there was a lot of legal, procedures and paperwork that went around yesterday. The judge ended up calling a 2-hour hearing yesterday afternoon, and he ended up by saying, "I'm not going to rule right now. I'm going to take my time and do my homework on this and come back with a ruling probably tomorrow morning." And as of last time I checked, about 30 seconds ago, he hadn't ruled yet, so everybody is just sitting around waiting. The interesting part about this is that he didn't stop the city last night from going in and doing the encampment either last night or this morning. So the city at this point, until he does rule, could go in and do it at any point. But they're being smart about it, and they're not doing it because they really don't want to tick off this judge. Judge Jones is the same judge that is handling the ACLU Black Lives Matter crowd control case right now, who just found the city in contempt of his injunction on that. So, they're doing the right thing, and they're saying, okay, let's not make things harder for the judge right now. Let's give him the time to make the ruling that he wants to make.
Looks like I was waiting for my audio here. There we go. All right. So right now, then, like you're saying, is that it's kind of limbo. So, like, if the police wanted to sweep, they could because there's been no judgment that's come down yet. The police aren't gonna sweep because it's just
and just to be clear, I mean, it's the Parks Department. What the city is saying is the Parks Department is in the lead here, not the police, right? The police don't have an official role with homeless encampments anymore. It's Department of Transportation or Parks Department or whatever part of the city takes care of the public property that the encampment is on, or the ones that are kind of in the lead on this. But the police obviously are going to have a supporting role here, particularly if and when they go forward with this one, because it is so barricaded right now, right? That they're gonna encounter active opposition when they go in and do that.
Right. And real quick, because I know Trey has some questions too, but on this point here of parks and Seattle police and who's doing what. This is last night from Capitol Hill Seattle blog, and SPD actually sent this over there to Justin as a clarification. They had an objection to how they were being characterized. This from Seattle Police Department. Any action in any city park is done by the Parks Department. not the police department. A spokesperson tells CHS. Seattle PD is always available to assist Parks Department personnel, but they and not the police department are the agency responsible for the parks. We would only be present to support a role to the Parks Department. And now this is dealing with homelessness. This is dealing with a park. But before, when there was a navigation team, maybe Seattle Police Department couldn't just, like, hey, this isn't our issue. There's a parks issue. We're just chilling. We're only going to come if somebody needs our assistance.
That's right. So half of the navigation team were police officers, right? And with the New Hope team that is coordinating outreach, there are no police officers in that. So there is no official role on a day-to-day basis for police officers in managing these encampments on public property, right? And they're only called in when whatever department is dealing with it asks them to go do that. So and that includes like the fire department. So if there is a fire at an encampment and it's in a place that the fire department thinks might be really dangerous for firefighters to go in on their own, they may call the police department and say, you got to go in there and we need you to secure this location first before we can send in our firefighters, who obviously aren't armed and aren't trained in self-defense and all of that. So, but there may be other encampments where the fire department feels perfectly safe going in and doing that. And that's really up to the fire department to decide first, whether they need police support and whether they want to call that in or not.
Right. Okay.
My question really is about, we were talking yesterday just about the strategy, and I think you're just kind of talking to it there, that it's really about the opposition that they may actually experience if they encounter the park. What do you look, is it really about this ruling now, depending on how things really play out? How do you really see this? If the judge is saying, yes, it's okay to go in there, or no, it's not. I really want to hear from you what you think the next steps really are.
Well, I think if the judge says, no, you can't go in there, I think he'll say more than that. He'll say, here are the steps that the city must follow, and basically, here's what's deficient in the approach that the city has taken so far about this. They, one of the charges in the complaint that was filed yesterday was that the city's process for storing and letting homeless people retrieve their belongings later isn't real, right? That they say they do this, but homeless people never retrieve their belongings and they just get thrown away after 70 days. So it isn't a real process, even though the city is required to do that. And in fact, there's legal cases that show that's one of the things that the city actually has to demonstrate that they're doing. So he may say, you have to go fix that first. You have to make that a real process and make it legitimate. And then we can talk about whether you can go in and clear this encampment. Or, I think he's unlikely to say you may not clear encampments under any circumstances. There isn't, the standard, sort of the gold standard court case on this in the Ninth Circuit, which covers the Seattle and the whole West Coast, is a case called Martin versus Boise, where the Ninth Circuit ruled that governments, including city governments, may not criminalize just being homeless on public property unless they're actually offering real shelter, as an alternative to being in that public place, right? And there's two parts to that. One is they have to offer shelter, but the other part is the difference between criminalizing being somewhere, like I'm going to arrest you and take you to jail and charge you with a crime, versus saying you just can't be here. And in that ruling, they said you can't criminalize it because that's cruel and unusual punishment, right? Just for like being alive and being homeless. But that doesn't mean the city can't say you can't be here and you have to be somewhere else, right? So there's a distinction there. And I think my guess is when the judge looks at this, he's going to come back and have something to say about how that applies in this situation, right?
Right. Something interesting yesterday is that this wasn't filed in court saying that this was a homeless encampment. This was filed in court saying this was a protest encampment, right? And they actually called on a bunch of other rights that maybe someone wouldn't win if they were just saying homeless encampment.
Yeah, they said, normally in cases like this, they say, standard Martin versus Boise things. I have, a right to exist, right? And you can't criminalize my right to exist and like just be somewhere because I have to be somewhere, right? But what they said is, like you said, Omari, they call this a protest encampment and asserted that they have a whole bunch of First Amendment rights also to be in this encampment on public property. And that's kind of a new thing where you have this kind of mashup of, well, it's a protest, so you've got some rights, and it's a homeless encampment, so you've got other rights. Do I get to assert all of those at the same time? And so that's kind of a new and novel thing. And I'm really kind of super interested to see what Judge Jones comes back and says on that. Judge Jones is an excellent judge. He's super thorough. He, as we can see right now, he's taking his time to really get this right and do his homework and understand the case law around this. And I'm really interested to see what he says on this.
Next up here, while we got you, is Seattle Police Department yesterday came out and said that they're crowdsourcing. They want feedback on how they can best. SPD seeks community feedback on draft use of force crowd management policies. I know that you've written a whole article on this about your website, sccinsight.com. What exactly is SPD doing here?
Yeah, so based on a bunch of feedback they got largely in August from the accountability bodies, they are drafting up some adjustments to their crowd control policy and use of force policy, including less lethal weapons and firearms, and what called stop sticks, things that they use to stop stationary vehicles from driving away. And they've been quietly circulating this for the last 2 weeks among the OPA, the Office of Inspector General, the CPC, the Department of Justice, the Police Monitor, and they're trying to gather a bunch of feedback from all those organizations by January 8th, and then spend most of the January month of January having a conversation about, okay, what should the final versions look like that we can submit to the court, to Judge Robart, who oversees the consent decree, about what these new policies should be. And an article I wrote last night, I kind of laid out a bunch of the kinds of things that are in the policies. Some are small changes, some are bigger changes. They really rewrote their crowd control policy pretty substantially, on this. But the SPD likes to do these things quietly. And, as they pass around these drafts, they tell, the CPC and the OPA, give us your feedback. Please don't disseminate these further. But, they're public records. I got a hold of them a couple of weeks ago. And, I was about to publish them yesterday. I was asking a bunch of questions, and they kind of jumped the gun on me and published themselves just to, get it out there. But the good news is it's now out there, right? So, not only did I publish them last night, but SPD did too. And they've got comment forms on them where people, you and I and everybody can say, okay, here's what I like, read through the policy, say, here's what I like, here's what I don't like. But the CPC wants to go further, right? And they're really the part of the accountability system here in Seattle that's responsible for making sure that the public has a voice in these things. And they want to hold open forums. They said yesterday morning in their meeting, we really want to make sure that there's a conversation about this, because these are the big ones, right? Use of force and crowd control, right? These are the big issues around, all the police violations that we saw over the summer. And the city and the public need to have a conversation about this. It's not just, the accountability organizations. We need them too, right? They've got a lot of expertise that they can bring to this conversation. But you and I and everybody else on the street need to be part of the conversation about this, and that needs to be in an open public forum. So the CPC wants to make sure that they can help organize public forums on these draft changes to these two policies, either with SPD or with the city council or with whoever wants to host it with them. But make sure that we really get a public conversation about this.
What are your thoughts on that, Trey?
Well, I think that's really important. I mean, one of the things that I'm wondering now is how do we get that information out to the public? I think a lot of the times what ends up happening is that people are not aware. And again, we're talking about a lot of folks in the community that are like, look, I got to get to work. I got these bills to pay. I got kids to feed. I got this and that. And when do I have the time to get onto a council meeting or to tell my part of what I believe should be there? So how do you think we can make sure that we help in terms of like community folks, community organizations, community media, to make sure that people are aware of these opportunities when they have them for public comment?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really great question. So, these two policies together, it was about 100 pages of stuff, and it took me a while to get through and kind of do my own summary of like, okay, here are the substantive changes in this, and here's just kind of the noise level kind of stuff. And so I tried to put that in the post I did last night, just kind of a summary, so people don't have to try to read all 100 pages if they don't want to, or they can jump to the part that's really interesting them. I think that's an important part that Trey, you and I, and the media can do in not only drawing attention to this, but saying like, here's the things that you may be more interested in, so you can focus your time, and give feedback on that. And also just making sure that there's a variety of different ways that people can give feedback. For some people, going to an open forum and being part of a conversation is the way to go. For other people, what SPD is offering now, which is, there's an online survey. You can go, and it's got 3 questions. What do you like about this policy? What do you not like? And should it be adopted the way it's written right now? Is what they're looking for, right? And I think we should, figure out if there are other things beyond just those 2 that are important to do as well, right? And I think there's great opportunities for the 2 of you to bring in folks like, I believe the Inspector General for Public Safety, Lisa Judge, is coming in next week, right? That's a great topic to tee up with her and just say, what do you think so far of these draft changes that SPD is proposing on these? And, where do you want to hear feedback from the public on this? And what do the experts tell you about the kinds of changes that they're proposing?
I can tell you this, that, I'll be filling out a feedback form, because I've witnessed crowd control tactics 100% firsthand, and I have a lot of feedback about it. So I encourage all of our viewers out there, take advantage of this opportunity. If you have feedback on how Seattle Police Department can have better crowd control tactics. Last thing here real quick, and I bring this up while you're on air, as we talked about this yesterday. This is the house there on 11th and Denny. And in the comments, somebody had said that it was in the hands of a developer. I guess it's in the hands of private citizens who own the property. This is, people who don't know, this is the house there on 11th and Denny is now being occupied. I guess it's been occupied for a while, with people squatting inside the house. But now some of the activists, protesters, advocates from Cal Anderson are over there as well. And I just wanted you to touch on real quick, Kevin, because we got to get off here, but real quick, the difference now of people occupying public space, which is a park, and now private property.
Yeah. So, public property is something that we all own. We all have a right to be on it. Private property works very different. There's a different set of laws, and there's just a huge bulk of law having to do with private property rights and your rights to be able, if you own a piece of property, rights to control access to it, use of it, who can come on it. And so, it's one thing for activists to occupy, a park. And it's a completely different set of laws when they try to occupy a private home. And this one is a vacant one. So, if the property owner, asserts their rights, they can call in the police to have these folks removed from this house if they want to. And the interesting part on this is, the flip side is, and there's a couple different big issues around this. One is this is apparently a vacant home. And, from what I read in the news, I think the same thing you read, Omari, was that a developer, is about to tear this down and build some more housing. I think 8 units of housing or something like that on this. So, but it's vacant right now. And the city actually a couple of years ago created a vacant house or vacant building monitoring program so that property owners who own lots that are currently vacant have to either do their own due diligence to make sure that the properties don't become a public hazard, don't become infested with rodents, don't become fire hazards, or they pay the city to do that for them, right? And I haven't a chance yet to see whether this particular property is enrolled in that monitoring program, but they're supposed to register and enroll if they're not sort of taking care of it themselves. And part of the reason the city wanted to do that was, in cases like this where there's a house that's vacant but is waiting for permits to go through so they can redevelop it, or financing to go through, that it doesn't necessarily sit vacant, right? That they could actually house people in that for some period of time. Why is it sitting vacant? And that's a really big important issue in neighborhoods around the city, right, where we have housing. There is housing today that's sitting vacant for one reason or another, that in a time where we have a ton of people who are unhoused, we could sure be doing a better job as a city of using that housing. So, there's in this particular case, from what I heard last night, the house is being occupied by a number of homeless individuals at the moment. And again, partly is a protest and to draw attention to what's going on in Cal Anderson Park, but also because they're homeless. Right. And so, we should, the property owner is going to do some things, I imagine, in the next couple of days about that. But we should also be paying attention to the fact that, vacant housing in the city is a real issue. Right. And it's an issue that we could be doing a better job as a city to do something useful with that.
All right, Kevin. We got to move on, but you're going to stay with us back there in the green room.
Yeah, I'm going to hang out in the back. And if the judge rules, I'll let you guys know, and you can jump me back in.
All right. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
All right. So moving quickly, we got a little behind, but it's always lots of information to cover, especially with this sweep and everything else moving around it. Yesterday, Triana, I talked to Carolyn Bick. Actually, 2 days ago, I talked to. Was it yesterday? Man, it's all a blur. I guess it was yesterday. I talked to Carolyn Bick of the South Seattle Emerald. And she's been following up on the story with Tommy Lay. Tommy Lay was killed by a King County Sheriff deputy back in 2017. Circumstances around it have changed a lot. Initially, they said that Lay had a knife. Then they said he didn't have a knife. Then they said that he might have had a pen. Then it turns out that, digging in it deeper, that he didn't have a pen. There's unaccounted bullets that were fired. Anyway, this is a case that's been going into court. The Lay family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the King County Sheriff's Office. But now what Carolyn Bick talks about is there's a conflict of interest, because Prosecutor Satterberg is the same person who could press charges against the deputy who shot Lay. But the prosecutor's office is also defending themselves against the wrongful death lawsuit.
So the long and short of it is that, it's the King County Prosecutor's Office may face a conflict of interest in the case, in the Tommy Lay case, which has been going on for several years now, ever since Lay was killed in 2017. And this is because the King County Prosecutor's Office is at once reserving the right to bring charges against Deputy Molina, who shot Tommy Lay, while at the same time currently defending King County in the civil case. But if the prosecutor's office brings charges against Molina, then those charges have criminal charges, then those criminal charges have the potential to affect King County, their client, in the civil case.
Right. So what you're saying is the King County prosecutor right now has the power to charge the officer who shot Tommy Lay, but King County prosecutor is also defending themselves in the civil case. And so if they proceeded with pressing charges against Molina, then they very well might run the risk of losing their civil case based upon the fact that they pressed charges against the officer who shot Tommy Lay.
Not based on the fact that they pressed charges against the officer, but the long and the short of it is that it certainly doesn't behoove an attorney to create more problems for their client.
So conflict of interest, or possible conflict of interest there in the King County prosecutor's office, Trina.
Yeah, I mean, there it is right there. This is why so much civilian oversight now. So many people are saying, "Wait a minute, like, how does all of this work?" And again, when we're bringing like folks like OPA on when it comes to police accountability, I think it's really important because again, a lot of this kind of information and knowledge is really outside of public purview. So I love that that Carolyn wrote this story there. I love that there's some real follow through from journalists and that we're able to cover it because again, our community would not know about these details without us really doing this work. So I think it's something that we need to continue to stay on. And again, we've been mentioning it. There's plenty of families out there that are looking for answers when it comes to police deaths, and deaths that happen in the hands of police. So again, I'm glad that we're uplifting this case for Tommy Lay and his family. Again, answers are needed to be had in community. And it's important that, we as community members understand how these cases unfold.
Right. So again, we'll keep an eye on that. People can read more about that on the SouthSeattleEmerald.com. Check that out. Carolyn Bick's article there. And also I'm following up on the 15th. I sat in at a press conference that the mayor and arts and culture had, as well as Tim Lemon from Langston Hughes, and they talked about the development of this PDA. And we kind of breezed through it. And I had a chance earlier this morning to edit out a minute or two of them, the mayor talking about the Cultural Space Agency, new PDA. And then also you'll hear me in here, I asked a question of Randy Engstrom, who is the director of arts and culture.
Today, we're really excited to announce the creation of a new public development authority. First one in Seattle in over 40 years. And it's one of the ways our city pulls together to preserve or ensure those things that matter to the heart and soul of our city. We did it for the Pike Place Market, and today we're doing it to make sure that we can, as we come out of COVID, that we not only preserve, but we protect that part of our city that really is its soul, the arts and culture, and that we make sure that we do it in a way that can be more equitable, and that our recovery is one that actually does bridge the gap to prosperity for everyone.
I have a question here, maybe directed for Mayor Durkin as well as Tim Lemon. So we have this cultural space agency, and I've heard everybody kind of talk about it in its larger sense, but like on an everyday scale. How do I translate what I just heard here to people in the neighborhood? What is this going to look like? What is a structure or a project around this going to look like? Is it, transferring an existing building and repurposing it? Is it getting some land and building a structure? Can you drill down just a little bit? I know you don't have the exact schematics and details, but maybe you can just put a little bit more skin on the bones.
To put a couple of really specific examples of projects in real time in the city that we're thinking about, one thing I would offer is the Equitable Development Initiative, which is one of the standout programs I've had the privilege of engaging with in my career, funds a number of projects, both in capital and capacity building each year. The PDA could be a partner to helping one or more of them actually put together the real estate deal necessary to bring their projects to fruition. Another example is that our Office of Housing does incredible work, and there are dozens of projects in the pipeline, all of which are going to have ground floors of commercial space who the end user is yet unknown. Could the PDA come in and purchase those ground floor units and then make available either long-term affordable or condo for ownership opportunities for local businesses and cultural institutions, and create either long-term stability or long-term ownership capacity for locally owned small businesses? And another is, we have cities, there are buildings that the city owns, and we could be talking about transfer of those properties, large and small. And we could also be talking about long-term leasing of those spaces, like the second floor of King Street Station below the office that we just cut the ribbon on last year, where we could bring together a number of organizations with a common mission to meet a community need by the PDA master leasing that floor and being able to allow community organizations long-term stability and rent control in a space like that. So those are a few tangible examples of where we think the PDA can solve problems or seize opportunities that exist right now in the city.
All right, so we see right there, Treyana, and we talked about this briefly, and we'll take a second here, that Artist, this PDA has been something people actually been talking about for a while, and it's the first one really developed here in the city in 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is where it gets a little bit, there was some, I was in the middle a little bit, right? Like I remember HJT, Stephanie Johnson Tolliver sent this to us some weeks ago that this was happening, or it was on the verge of happening. There had been a lot of research with Tim Lennon, a lot of things that he had done and others that had really been pushing for this. And I explained to her then that, historically PDAs haven't served the Black community well. So I wanted to be sure that before I was, hopping on board with anything, that literally I would understand how this PDA was going to be used. And I like what Randy is saying there, because we do need affordability in the city, particularly with commercial space. This is what Christy of That Brown Girl Cooks and Communion was just talking about on the show earlier this week, that it really took a lot of effort from Community Roots Housing and Bird Bar Place, Africatown Community Land Trust, and other organizations to really uplift, the story of Communion, so that there was funds there that were poured into Communion for the building renovations. And again, she explained it like this was over $1 million that they had to actually put in order to make that space right for their restaurant. So when we're talking about commercial affordability, it is a huge issue in Seattle. And I love that there is going to be an intermediary agency that's really going to be looking out for community organizations, small businesses, businesses that are owned by people from the global majority. Those kinds of initiatives are so needed in our city.
All right, moving forward, we got a few, man. We're over time, but we'll breeze through some of these. This one though has been an ongoing story for us here. As COVID-19 spreads in Washington's prisons, advocates call for better conditions of release. Now it says here that for the third time in as many months, the cases we don't have this one here, no numbers on it, but I do know on this particular one that the rates are going up in prison as far as people getting COVID. The average person might be like, yeah, so what, they're in prison, but well, I mean, the thing is like things don't stay in the prison. They probably just, multiply even faster there. And you have all kinds of people in prison as well, outside of the inmates. You have the guards, you have medical staff, you have maintenance, you have all kinds of things going there. And so the prisons, I mean, we talked about this back in March, Trayana.
Yeah,
March.
This is a serious issue. I mean, I was just on a community call this morning that was talking about the death of Stafford Creek. Thank you, Nikki, for putting the details there. She said here there were 449 active COVID-19 cases among those prisoners as of Monday, according to DOC's website. And last week, a male inmate at Stafford Creek died of COVID-19. That was the fourth coronavirus-related death of a state inmate. And what we were hearing from community folks on the ground that are actually talking to inmates inside of Stafford Creek, that honestly, the way that they're being treated inside is almost to proliferate the COVID-19 disease amongst inmates. And so there's some things that we can follow up here. It's just funny that we are talking about it, but not funny, but it's just so serendipitous that we're talking about this. And I was just on a community call this morning about the very same thing, because it is affecting those in our community. And again, we do know that the prison system is another one of those disproportionate places where Black folks are incarcerated at higher rates than others. And so this is definitely a story that is resonating within our community.
Right. And Governor Inslee, I was on a press conference with him a few days ago when he announced his equitable plan. And one of the reporters asked him about the prisons. And I'm just paraphrasing. The governor basically said it's a lot of rumor and innuendo going on out. People are disgruntled, so they're making up stories. So this is actually a good story here to follow up with. Maybe talk to people who are inside the prison system, and then also talk with the governor's office and DOC about complaints that they're getting there, and get to the bottom of it, because they're saying a lot of stuff is made up. We talked to people out there who are family members or incarcerated, and they're talking about a different condition. Real quick here, extension and suspension of interest charges and late fees and utility bills. A lot of people have heard about that. And also Mayor Durkin wanting to extend the moratorium till March. Councilmember Sawant sent a press conference, a press release here right before we went on air, said that she wants to propose a rent moratorium for a whole year. We don't have time to discuss it here in this segment, but we'll definitely follow this up because we see that you have organizations, we talked about it earlier, Community Roots Housing, formerly CHH, they had to take $1 million loan from the city, no interest, because they're running out of money. They're a low interest, they're affordable housing developer. Last thing here in this segment, Mackenzie Scott gives away $4.1 billion to 384 organizations, including 4 Washington state groups. This is great. Philanthropy is there. Mackenzie Scott, we're taking donations over here at Converge Media. We'll be more than happy. We don't need the whole, 4 point whatever billion, but whatever you could do. But also bring this up because Mackenzie Scott donated $15 million to my alma mater, a historically Black college university, Elizabeth City State University. So thank you, Mackenzie Scott.
It's great to hear about philanthropy really taking a surge right now. It's definitely needed in communities. And we're seeing a great swell of relationships between community groups and philanthropy groups. I think the connections, I want to just send a shout out to folks that are really the intermediaries behind that work. It really does take folks who understand what's happening on the ground and where philanthropy stands, where certain foundations sit, and where even family trusts and different foundations really sit. And we need those types of liaisons to bring that funding into the work for sure.
All right, we're going to take a short break right now. I see Besa's in the green room. When we come back, it's the Rewind with Besa. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
My parents coming over here as refugees meant that they didn't really have anything when they came to America. Having reliable healthcare and having a reliable doctor was really important. Cộng đồng của tôi, trạm y tế của tôi.
我的社区，我的诊所。Mi comunidad, mi clínica.
بلشدة هي بقارها.
My community, my clinic.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury.
I am Trey Holiday.
Bay Holiday. All right, it's Thursday, and we know every Thursday is an opportunity to take a dive into popular culture, what's happening in the streets. It's time for the Rewind with Besa. Oh, yeah, please bring Besa into the studio. There she go.
Hello.
Hi, Besa.
How y'all doing?
Always good.
What's up with you?
I'm freaking tired. That's what's up with me. I went to bed at like 5 in.
Man, you going hard in the paint, huh?
I just couldn't sleep. I don't know why. Like lately I've just been up. My brain won't shut off and I'm just like, ugh. So, gotta get that energy out.
And before we jump to this, we always got new viewers checking in and coming through like that. Besa is actually an on-air at Cube 93. What's your day shift?
I do 7 to midnight. Today I actually am probably doing 3 to 7 because I need to fill in for Eric. And then recently I took on a weekend shift in Sacramento and one in Portland.
So Sacramento and Portland on the weekends, and then here in Seattle, weeknights 7 to midnight. Well, you working?
That'd be me.
All right, that's what's up. Okay, so now tell us, you sent this clip over here, and this is Snoop Dogg talking. And, we got to remember when you're explaining things here, we got a lot of community elders who watch too. So this ain't your show you on right now. The morning up. This is the community show. So
We
we're
gotta
going
update
to be delicate in the language here, but go ahead and set this clip up.
So basically, the clip is about Snoop Dogg. He did a recent interview, and as some of you may or may not know, Cardi B has a song called WAP. WAP stands for W-A, Women's Private Parts. All right, we're going to keep it PG on here. And he pretty much said that he feels that she's moving a little bit too fast. He doesn't want it to be so explicit for children. So that's what this clip is about.
All right.
WAP.
Oh my God. Slow down. Like, slow down. Slow down. And let's have some imagination. Let's have some, some privacy, some intimacy, where he wants to find out as opposed to you telling him. To me, it's like it's too fashionable. When that is secrecy, that should be a woman's. That's like your pride and possession. That's your jewel of the now. That's what you should hold on to. That should be a possession that no one gets to know about until they know about it.
So I would imagine you have conversations like this with your daughter.
But my daughter is from a different era, though. She's from this era, so she may be doing the WAP, or, you know what I'm saying, a part of the WAP. And I can't be mad at her because it's her generation, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like the things that I would rather see, because I'm an older man. Mm-hmm. Now, when I was young, 21, 22, I may have been with the movement. I probably would have been on a remix. But as an older man, it's like, I love it that they're expressing themselves and they doing their thing. I just don't want it that fashionable to where young girls feel like they can express themselves like that without even knowing that that is a jewel that they hold on to until the right person comes around.
Oh, they don't say power of the P for nothing now.
I know that's right.
Look, all you over there trying to.
I know that's right.
All you over there trying to pull me out. I know it's Black Girl Magic time. All you.
Come on now. Yes. Sprinkle me, man. All I'm saying is, I gotta say this. As a person getting into that older age, I appreciate Snoop Dogg for saying this, because sometimes when I hear lyrics, I blush. I'm like, woo! I remember the Trinas and the Little Kims of my era. Trust and believe. We had lots of explicit lyrics happening then, but there is something about this level of just like almost like the embracing of savagery, right? Like, I'm a savage. Even that song, I'm just like, you called yourself a savage, and I get that it's another word that we are changing. But when I think savagery, I immediately think of some type of colonial, like Vikings, like them being savages, needing to learn. Like, I go back to like this historical aspect. So when it's like us taking the word back and us bringing power to it, that's a part of this era and this movement. I definitely appreciate Snoop Dogg's perspective on this one. Where do you fall, Besa? This is your generation. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, child. Y'all don't want to play my other clip, child. Look, my main thoughts about what I feel like it's a little bit hypocritical, being that Snoop Dogg used to be a pimp. He's literally gone to award shows with women on Changed. So I just kind of find it interesting that he's like, oh yeah, I want it to be a little bit slower. Yet his daughter recently just did a music video where she was butt naked singing about her WAP. So it's like, what are you teaching your daughter? At that particular point, for me, I don't have any kids. So it's like, I understand when people are like, the kids are listening, the kids are watching, but I'm 31, I'm single, I don't got no kids. My family raised me in a way to where it's like, you need to be married if you're having children, and I've kept that with me. It doesn't mean that I'm a virgin. It just means I made sure I wasn't just having kids all over the place. So I guess for me, as someone that does not have children, I just feel like as an adult, you should be raising your kids to understand that yes, your WAP is your power, but you just don't go handing it out all willy-nilly. I don't feel like that is the responsibility of the creator or the artist. That is the responsibility on the parents. But hey, I ain't got no kids.
Yeah. And I think you're so right about this. And also, too, one of the things that he said that really resonates with me is, something so intimate, right? That that is a prize that we get to hold on to until we have that partner or whatever that gets to experience that with us. So again, I love what she said at the end. They don't call it the power of the P for nothing. And I mean, this is definitely a theme that is resonating, I think, heavily in music right now. And we've seen the proliferation of it, right? I think back to groups like Salt and Pepper, you know what I mean, that were talking about it in a way that was not so explicit, right? And they were a little bit more kind of, you know, like, hey, we're going to talk about it with some innuendo, kind of scenario driven. But now it's just kind of like out there. And I think you're absolutely right when it comes to the parents. Again, this is why, you know, my kids don't listen to everything. It's like, yeah, it's everything isn't for a certain age group. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, first of all, Kevin Schofield, of all people, he's back there clowning in the green room. He said that Snoop Dogg, as old as Snoop Dogg is, does he now qualify as a community elder? But all I'm gonna say is this: is just generally speaking, man, women set the bar. Men are always gonna follow wherever women set the bar. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, people might want to think about some of these lyrics that they put out there, you know, this life, because it's true. Like she said there, man, we're always going to follow that lead. Well, at least me. That's the way we were raised. Besa, tell us about what else you got out on the Rewind today.
I also kind of talked about this comedian by the name of Besa. Rapper DaBaby is dating a new singer by the name of DaniLeigh. She's Dominican. DaBaby is actually Nigerian, and Besa is a light-skinned African-American woman. I frankly did not appreciate the fact that in the video she said that DaniLeigh had the upper hand on her because DaniLeigh is Dominican, and I feel like that is absolutely problematic. And I talk about why it's problematic and how my own family not properly instilling the right confidence in me that I needed as I've gotten older. Obviously, I've gotten better, but I still have some work to do because my family jacked up my self-esteem. So, you know, we kind of talk about that and how comments like that are problematic and how it doesn't really matter what race you are still beautiful. Like, sis, maybe you just don't like you like that.
Man, Besa, I really appreciate, I would toss over to Treyana real quick as well. I really appreciate how real you keep it with your viewers and your listeners, man. I mean, you're always bringing, you know, and sharing personal things with people on the Rewind.
I'm trying. It's not comfortable for me to do, but hey, I feel like the average person doesn't know me or much about me, and this is a way for them to learn.
Absolutely. And that's really a part of building your brand. I think you're doing a really great job. What I say about my work always is that I'm just authentically myself. And this is another reason why politics always makes me feel like, I'm not sure, because I just want to authentically be me. I think you're doing that so well. One of the things I'll say about this situation with DaBaby and Besa is that if anybody out there saw the Wild 'N Out episode with DaBaby on there, you could see Besa was all over him the whole episode. So all I'm saying is that it's been clear she was making it very known even on that episode. I'm sure things that happened before and after the episode in terms of just like her willingness to like be with him. And I agree with you that we should own and embrace all of our differences that make us uniquely us. I think that Besa is gorgeous. I think her whole shtick and a lot of her brand has been like this girl that's searching for a boyfriend type of thing. And so it's really a part of her brand. And I think that could also be somewhat of a turnoff to someone, you know, that maybe it's like DaBaby was like, look, you know, that's thirsty or something, who knows? But that's my perspective on it. And from what I know about it, just because of, you know, where people have gone and what they've shown in the public eye. Again, we don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but I agree with you. DaniLeigh does not have a hand up on her just because she's Dominican.
All right. People need to log in or check out the show and they can hear your full opinion. Real quick before we let you go, I know that we're planning something, putting the date, we're finalizing the date, but you can tell everybody about this Grammy show that you are producing.
Yeah, so I'm basically doing a panel with about 9 or 10 people, and it's going to be about the Grammys. A lot of people have had a lot to say about the Grammys, from the nominations this year for who got snubbed, who didn't get snubbed, who deserved something, who didn't deserve something, all the way down to Tiffany Haddish. So I just want to have a conversation with the community about what they think could have been done better, what they expect next year, and frankly, where things went left to where people are like, okay, the Grammys doesn't support, or this is maybe how they would like for the Grammys to support more.
All right, and people, look at that producer, Nikki Barron, right on time. Put it up there on the screen. Where we converge / the Rewind with Besa, with hyphens right there. Rewind with Besa. And the best thing is people can rock with you there on the video version. And Bobby Steele's the postman. He's been doing your audio mix. So you can also check out the Rewind with Besa on our SoundCloud or anywhere that you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Google, we are there. Besa, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
But of course. I will talk with y'all next week.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
We're gonna go right into the coronavirus update. Nikki Barron. All right, Nikki Barron, you're here. It's a big news day, and I know we pushed your segment now. We're at 12:52, but these numbers and this information is important, so thank you for being patient. Why don't you hop right into it?
Sure, no problem. Let's talk about the numbers. So confirmed cases rose by 1,525 cases, bringing us to a grand total of 206,594. And now there's a new number here that they just introduced called probable cases, and that's 7,671. And essentially what that is that since June of this year, all the cases, hospitalizations, and death counts have been collected here. But we haven't looked at a different type of test, and that is an antigen test. So that's when you get a blood test that tells you if you have the antibodies in your system. So that's now going to start being reported. So we'll actually see people who had cases where they found out that they had COVID, but after the fact, which I think is a really interesting turn of events on this number that we were looking at. But moving forward, we have our hospitalizations, which rose by 301, bringing us to a grand total of 13,074. And deaths rose by 89 here in Washington State. And as I say every time, really the big numbers that we need to be looking at are our hospital readiness, because by the time we get these numbers on the positivity, all of that, the damage has been done, and it's up to our healthcare workers to take on the cases at that point. So our hospital readiness, yesterday when we looked at it, we were really excited because we were down at 78%, and our goal is 80%. Woke up this morning and now we're up at 84.9%. So we are actually getting worse, which definitely makes sense as we see hospitalizations rising and we're seeing our deaths rising. It makes sense that ICU beds being filled are also rising.
Right. And now before we let you go here, why don't you tell people just real quick about the show last night, Coronavirus Update Show, Dr. Duchin, and where they can find that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had the opportunity to speak to the top dog when it comes to public health for King County and Seattle, Dr. Jeff Duchin. He is the health executive over there. And we spoke to him about the vaccine rollout. We also, which I think it's really interesting, there was some breaking news this morning that we're actually going to get 40% less vaccines than we did in our last batch, which is hugely disruptive when we kind of already thought that this was going to be a hard rollout. So I wish I'd known this information yesterday so I could have asked him about it. So I need to follow up with him about that. But we also spoke to him about the racial disparities in COVID, as well as in relation to the vaccine. And you can find that episode and all the past episodes of the COVID update show at whereweconverge.com. Just navigate over to our COVID resources. It's also a podcast that you can find on all of your favorite streaming podcast platforms.
All right. Thank you, Nikki. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we're going to say something special about a real special person in media here in Seattle. You're watching the Morning Update Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Few stories that we're going to push here till tomorrow. One of them is we shouldn't be sad about it because apparently everybody's sad. But there's in the Seattle Times today, it says Seattle was the saddest metro area in the nation last month. And so, yeah, man, 49% of respondents here in Seattle metro area said that, man, they were just experiencing some sadness, and can't blame them. And then we want to spend some time talking about Governor Inslee and his plan to try to reopen schools. So we'll bump that till tomorrow. Also, the governor is rolling out the whole thing, the big budget announcement. I think it's today at 2:30. So we'll try to stay on top of that. Trey Holiday, before we get out of here, and it's crazy how much time we made up. And real quick, before we go into this, what they're saying is the judge hasn't made a ruling yet. So we'll keep you guys updated through Twitter, everything else, when Judge Jones makes a ruling. But Trey Holiday, I don't know about you, but me, when I was a kid growing up in Seattle, Washington, and I watched TV, there was one person on the news at my house, and my mama watched too, all of us. We would be watching way back when, Channel 4. And when people tell you that representation doesn't matter, all these years later, let me tell you that Connie Thompson over at Como 4, 46 years of excellence there. I know that she impacted me, seeing representation, seeing this Black woman on TV when I was a little kid. She's leaving Como 4 today, and she's retiring. 46 years, Trey Holiday.
Wow. I mean, I agree with you there wholeheartedly. When we talk about representation, it does matter so much. And when you think about something like your morning news or your evening news, the things that are just anchors or staples in so many homes, it is important that we have that representation. I am there with you 100% with Miss Connie and her amazing accomplishments throughout her career. Kudos to her and all she's given to the news world, all she's given right here to the Pacific Northwest, to Seattle. I agree with you. What a career, what a journey for so many of us to be able to look up to someone like her, who really, to be honest, throughout her career, kept her sense of community, of love, and that level-headed nature of just reporting the news. I agree with you. Oh, man. I mean, congrats to her and her retirement. She's given a lot of her love to this work.
Again, for Connie Thompson, I want to tell you this, and 100% sincerely mean it, that like you have made a difference. I'm here, Converge Media, here today as a little kid watching you, Connie Thompson. Like I said, as a family, we used to sit around and watch you. That was like the joy to watch Connie Thompson on TV. So I don't want people out there to ever underestimate the power of representation. Thank you, Connie Thompson, for your career of service to news, to media, and to the community. Absolutely. That being said, That being said, Trey Holiday, you got anything before we get out of here?
It's time to go. I think we've done a great job with the show. I mean, again, I think we'll be following up with this ruling. And like you said, making sure that folks understand what's happening on Twitter. Please follow Converge Media so that you guys can be updated, because these things are going to be playing out within the next, I think, hour or so.
Yep. And when or if or when this sweep happens, I mean, it's going to happen sooner or later, when the Seattle Parks Department decides that they want to move forward, if they're able to move forward with this clearing of the park with the Seattle Police Department, we will be there live. Make sure you share that stream. Till tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise.